We are now talking to the hosts, host of the Slapshot Sweethearts podcast, Megan, Rachel, and Shannon Walsh. What's going on, Megan and Shannon? How are you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having us. I'm good.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. I'm doing well.
Well, you know, I do like having beautiful women on. Hopefully, you're not scared away by my fabulous, crazy producer.
Well, you talked a little bit about him not wearing pants before we introduced ourselves to each other, so we're off to a good start.
Well, hopefully. I hope you're not scared away or going to decide not to do this interview. So
we're just really getting to know each other.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, if you know what he wears, hopefully he's wearing underwear today.
I am. Again, he's lying.
I'm not lying.
I was.
There's no lies.
I was over at my family's house for Thanksgiving break.
Liar.
Yes, and I couldn't get in the shower because my brothers were in there, and then I had to set up for the show, so I just left my pajamas on for the show. It was not here, though. I would never come in pajamas here to the show.
So you've never done a show in the studios with your pajamas on?
No.
Yes or no?
No,
that's a lie. That's a lie. Now you just lied.
I did not.
You have. I've seen you do it.
Not.
I've seen you do it. Don't lie.
Nope.
3 years of this.
Wrong.
I have
Wrong.
sat next to you with your pajamas, your fluffy wuff, whatever the hell you call them. They're whatever they are. Yeah, the smooth, whatever sensation that you wear. Anyways, this is not about you. This is about.
Are you talking like full on PJs or like sweatpants? Let's get that out of the way first.
There's a difference here.
Yeah, no, it's not. They're pajamas. They're loose.
Yeah, they're loose, all right. You know, hopefully we stay far, far away from this kid, especially with his pajamas on. Now I know that he goes into his pajamas butt ass naked. Anyways, Commando Man over here. We are now talking to the hosts of Slapshot Sweethearts podcast, Megan, Rachel, and Shannon Walsh. So, guys, how are you guys doing with your families with this pandemic?
Yeah, so my parents and brother are all essential workers, so they're pretty much just living life like nothing's going on. They still have to go to work and all of that. But I live in Washington, D.C., and they live in Massachusetts. So actually, I haven't been able to connect with them too much on it besides going home every few months for holidays or check-ins and things like that. Megan, I know you've been going back and forth from coast to coast, so.
Yeah, my life kind of got flipped upside down with this whole thing. I was living in New York, doing the New Yorker thing, and then this all hit, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm going to get out of here for a bit. So I moved to the Jersey Shore, and then when winter came, I decided to hop over to LA and give that a try. So I'm doing the bi-coastal thing. It's hard to travel because I'm very firm on the whole quarantine before I see my family thing. So of the 3 weeks I was on the East Coast for Christmas, 2 of them were spent alone, but you know, it's worth it for the safety.
So what is the New York thing? What do you call the New York thing? You went to the Jersey Shore. I can't stand that show. I actually know.
Oh my God, it's so different. I swear that is not the life.
Well, first of all, the Jersey Shore. I know a bunch of the guys and girls that are on the show. I know them personally, and I am not a big fan of their show. I don't watch their show, so I can't stand when people say I gotta go home and watch the Jersey Shore for what? What the hell are you watching? A bunch of guys dancing around in the middle of a hallway. Anyways, so you're obviously hockey women. What made you guys decide to start a podcast and name it the Slapshot Sweethearts?
Yeah, so I actually have been with Belly Up Sports for a few months now. I'm on their leadership team. I work with their interns. I'm their basketball department head, actually, not their hockey department head. And so while I was there, they needed a new hockey flagship podcast, and their basketball flagship podcast is also hosted by 2 women. The whole shtick of it is that you're bringing new and innovative approaches to basketball analysis because it's 2 women and people don't expect it to be coming from women. So we kind of wanted to take that approach in terms of hockey, especially because hockey, unless you're watching the WNHL, does not come from a female perspective very often. So we kind of wanted to take that approach. Megan and I were close in college. We were both known in our sorority as like the sports girls to go to. So we kind of just took that, and it naturally formed together pretty quickly. So.
Yeah. Shannon said it. She came to me, asked if I was interested, and definitely was. Like, you don't really, like she said, hear a lot of female voices in hockey, and it's a fun space to come into. And luckily everyone's been pretty receptive to us so far. Everyone's super welcoming, wanting to work with us. So it's been fun and kind of all just came together well.
So what are some of those experiences you've had so far in the times you've done the podcast? What are whether it's guest banter or anything like that, interviews you might have done, like you're doing with us right now. What have been some of the best experiences and moments that you two have had so far with this podcast? And what is something that maybe you hope to grow into as it grows?
Yeah, we've done a few other interviews so far, just kind of like getting into the space with everyone. But for me, I think my highlight wasn't even an interview. We have gotten into a Twitter battle with the New Jersey Devil mascot. So I am loving it, every second of it. I was like driving somewhere over the weekend and Shannon was like sending messages to my friend who was in my car. I was like, you have to read this to me. I need to know what's happening. Like, I can't wait till I get home. Like, tell me what's happening.
Oh, we are talking to the host of the Slapshot Sweethearts podcast, Megan Rachel and Shannon Walsh. So, guys, first of all, what teams do you root for when it comes to the NHL? And now that you know what teams you root for, what are you looking forward to with the NHL season about to start?
Yeah, so I'm a Bruins fan. I have a soft spot for the Flyers. That's my boyfriend's team, and the Capitals, just because I live in DC. My soft spot for the Capitals has waned a bit since they took Chara from me, but I still, love that I'm here and can support them in some fashion. So I know Megan has a couple teams as well.
Yeah, I am a Penguins fan.
Uh-oh.
At the end of the day, I will defend it till the day I die. I, like Shannon, have a soft spot for the Caps. I lived in DC for a few years, but I also have a flirtation with the Vegas Golden Knights that I will not let go of.
And what's that flirtation?
Marc-Andre Fleury.
Well, he has been a good goaltender everywhere he's gone. I will say that. And then he gets into these clusters where other goalies take over his job. So that's happened to Marc-Andre Fleury everywhere he's gone. But he's a great goaltender. He's been successful everywhere he's gone. So I have to give him credit like that. But so I am an Islander fan, okay? And the New York Islanders last year went to the Eastern Conference Championship. And a lot of Ranger fans, a lot of people around the NHL took shots at the New York Islanders because at the time that they canceled the season because of COVID-19, the Islanders weren't playing good hockey. They were only 1 point over the Rangers, and everybody was saying the Islanders didn't belong there. They got Pelech back, and they started playing good hockey in the playoffs, went all the way to the Eastern Conference Championship, and played great hockey. Were you surprised, or were you one of those people, or both of you those type of people that took shots at the Islanders because the Islanders squeaked into the playoffs because of the COVID-19 situation? Or were you absolutely impressed with what the Islanders did all the way to the Eastern Conference Championship?
I was pretty impressed with that. But like, I know on our podcast last week, we kind of like did our like picks for the year, and I made the Islanders my dark horse. I think they kind of showed up and proved what they can do. And if they can continue on the momentum, like, I think they're set to have a good season if they can continue that. But I mean, everything coming out of that weird time off is kind of questionable from any way you look at it. You can debate any team, I feel, but I think they're set up for a quality season if they can keep up their momentum from that.
I agree that they have potential to have a good season this year, but I'm going to disagree. I think in terms of last year, the setup for how many teams made the bubble, like even Megan, the Penguins shouldn't have made the bubble either. They took too many teams there.
Right.
Like a few of them made it to the playoffs that shouldn't have, and they cut ones that were way higher seeds. The same thing happened in the NBA too. There was nothing else they could have done about it just because of the situation they were in, but it made for some like bullshit series. And I know that no one expected the Islanders to be good to begin with because they lost John Tavares, but the fact that they made it that far could have been a fluke. You won't know until we start this season and we see if they suck or not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will say this. So before you say it was a fluke, the Islanders in the last 2 years, Barry Trotz has been there, have been one of the top 3 defenses in the NHL. So knowing that, it's not a fluke. Defense wins championships, and I think that the Islanders set up very, very well defensively. They need to find that second-hand scorer right behind Matthew Barzal. They added Pajot, who was very, very good coming from Ottawa. He was one of the standout players for the Islanders in the playoffs. He had 10 goals. He was fantastic. He was one of the best playoff players. But all in all, they needed to add that extra offensive player in the offseason. They couldn't do that. Mike Hoffman decided to go to St. Louis because he wants to win a title, quote unquote. St. Louis didn't really do anything in the playoffs last year. And now you have Sorokin, the top goaltender, one of the best goaltending prospects we've seen in a very, very long time. The Islanders signed him during the season last year, and now the Islanders and they're set up very, very well at goaltender. So I've been very impressed with what the Islanders did, especially making that run in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, Barry Trotz is an established coach. It was a surprise to all of us when he left the Capitals right after they won the Cup to begin with. So if he can keep them rolling after they did lose Tavares and they're slowly building on top of the base that they already had, then I don't think it'll be a fluke. But it's just an interesting perspective comparing their Eastern Conference final run to how they got into the playoffs to begin with. Obviously, we wouldn't know what would have happened if the season didn't stop. Maybe they would have climbed up the rankings. It's the same thing that I was talking about calling Philly a fluke in our last episode, because they were on a huge hot streak last season, and then they made a fair playoff run. I think the Islanders were the ones that knocked them out, actually.
Yep.
And maybe they'll come back red hot again, but they didn't make any significant roster moves in the offseason. So I think it's a similar situation. You're not entirely able to see what's going to happen because it wasn't a normal season that we normally compare it to.
So you mentioned Zdeno Chara earlier, and again, it was very surprising that the Bruins let him go the way they did. He went to Washington. I thought he would have just retired at that point because he's just a Bruin forever, from what it seems like. So
hold on, he was an Islander too.
All right, he was an Islanders. Actually stepped on the ice for the Islanders.
He was still an Islander.
All right, he was an Islanders draft pick. Fine. So what do you think is the biggest thing? Obviously, we heard your reaction already. You obviously didn't like it as a Bruins fan. So how much do you think it'll hurt the Bruins, and also in what ways? And also, what boost do you think it'll give to the Capitals, and how significant will those boosts be at somebody at 43 years old like Chara?
Yeah, so it doesn't hurt me as a Bruins fan in the sense that we're losing a skill player. The guy's 43 years old. If he stayed with the Bruins, he was only going to be able to play minimal minutes, or he should have only played minimal minutes. I think that's why he left the Bruins, was because they asked him to play minimal minutes and he didn't want to. That was the main frag in their contract negotiations. I'm assuming that again, I was not in the room. I'm assuming that the Capitals offered him more minutes, or at least
Tiny Whities were in the room, by the way.
No, they were not. Yes, they don't exist.
They were hanging on a chair, so he actually was in the room. Or at least a piece of him was in the room. But go ahead.
And I don't think that he's going to give the Capitals a significant boost besides maybe leadership. But they've got Alex Ovechkin. They don't need that veteran in the locker room that a lot of other teams need, like maybe the Bruins, because they have Bergeron and they have Krejci. But Chara was really that guy that was building out the blue line. So I think that's going to hurt them in some way. I don't think it's going to hurt them in terms of talent because, yeah, he's huge, but he's not moving as fast as he used to. He doesn't have that huge slap shot that everyone's afraid of anymore, things like that. I will say that I saw a headline earlier that he wasn't able to start training camp today because he left his stick in Brighton, and he's so tall that he can't borrow anyone else's stick. So he actually hasn't been able to practice with the Capitals yet.
And I want to give a shout out to Henrik Lundqvist. With everything that's happened to Henrik in the offseason, obviously the Rangers parting ways with him going to Washington, and then finding out that he's going to have open heart surgery. I mean, this is one of the great goaltenders we've seen in the last 20 years, and hopefully a speedy recovery for whatever his heart surgery is all about. I haven't even heard what kind of heart surgery he's going to have, but hopefully Henrik Lundqvist will actually have the opportunity to step on the ice again once he gets through this. So shout out to the Lundqvist family.